Why is it that many people over 60 find themselves losing strength and muscle mass, even if they are eating enough? Why, despite good intentions, do we see individuals in their 60s or 70s bending down to tie shoes and thinking, I used to be stronger than this? If we do not actively reverse this process, the consequences cascade: slower metabolism, greater fat gain, fatigue, vulnerability to injury, frailty, and a shorter health span. Here's what is really going on inside your body. Muscle is not a passive tissue. It is metabolically active, crucial to insulin sensitivity, mitochondrial function, and daily glucose handling. When muscle declines, your ability to burn energy, respond to insulin, and maintain metabolic balance weakens. Over time, the loss of muscle, what doctors call sarcopenia, becomes a central node driving metabolic decline, weight gain, frailty, and shorter lifespan. The stakes are high. By age 60, many people begin losing about 3 to 5% of muscle mass per decade, a rate that accelerates with age. Research shows that muscle strength, not just mass, is deeply predictive of mortality and health outcomes in older adults. If we accept muscle loss as inevitable, we surrender control over our metabolic health, quality of life, and longevity. But here is the hopeful truth. Muscle loss in older adults is not irreversible. We have powerful tools to slow it, stop it, and even reverse it. The interventions are rooted in physiology, not fad. They involve nutrition, hormonal context, resistance stimulus, strategic timing, and signaling molecules. And in a twist that is especially relevant to your title, there is a targeted tool you can add to your coffee that helps turn on the molecular machinery of muscle building. In this talk, I will show you 6 key insights about reversing muscle loss over 60 and how you can integrate them into your daily life. We will journey through Number 1. The hidden barrier of anabolic resistance, why older muscle stops listening to protein signals. Number 2. How insulin, inflammation, and fatty liver corrupt muscle-building pathways. Number 3. The power of a muscle-minded morning ritual. What to add to your coffee. Yes, there's a secret weapon. Number 4. Why resistance stimulus matters more than endless cardio, and how to do it safely in your 60s. Number 5. The timing and distribution of protein and nutrients across the day that maximize muscle synthesis. Number 6. Supportive nutrients, hormones, and lifestyle habits that remove roadblocks and accelerate recovery. My goal is that, by the end of this session, you feel empowered, not overwhelmed, to begin reversing muscle loss now. You will have not just theory, but a concrete protocol you can test immediately, starting tomorrow morning, starting next week, or starting right now. I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, because I will bring you practical longevity. Also hit like so it shows to who need it. Here is what is really going on inside your body as you age. By the time you reach your 60s, your muscles begin to lose their sensitivity to the very signals that tell them to grow. This is called anabolic resistance. Think of it like a radio that no longer picks up the signal clearly. The message to build is still being sent, but your muscles cannot fully hear it anymore. In your 20s or 30s, when you eat protein or engage in resistance activity, your muscles receive a strong signal through a molecular switch called mTOR, the mechanistic target of rapamycin. This pathway tells your cells, resources are available, start building tissue. But as you age, this signal weakens. Your muscle fibers stop responding as powerfully to protein and exercise as they once did. Why does that happen? There are several interconnected reasons. The first is a decline in mitochondrial function. Mitochondria are the power generators inside every cell, and they convert nutrients into usable energy. As mitochondria become sluggish, the energy available for protein synthesis and muscle repair decreases. This makes it harder for the muscle to respond to growth signals, even if protein intake is sufficient. The second reason involves chronic low-grade inflammation, what researchers call inflammaging. Over years of metabolic stress, poor sleep, and high sugar intake, inflammatory molecules accumulate in the bloodstream. These molecules interfere with insulin signaling, which is crucial for shuttling amino acids into muscle cells. When insulin does not work efficiently, the building blocks of muscle cannot enter the cells effectively. The result is slower repair, weaker muscle fibers, and less growth. The third reason lies in hormonal adaptation. Testosterone, growth hormone, and DHEA gradually decline with age. These hormones are not simply about youth. They are the molecular messengers that help activate the machinery of protein synthesis. Without them, the entire system operates in a low-gear state. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine a construction site. The workers are your muscle cells, the materials are your amino acids, the power supply is your mitochondria, and the foreman giving instructions are your hormones. In your younger years, everything runs efficiently. Materials arrive on time, the power is steady, and the foremen are alert. But as you reach your 60s, the power supply flickers, the workers become slower, and the foremen stop shouting clear instructions. The building continues, but much more slowly. Anabolic resistance is the biological equivalent of that slowdown. What the research shows is that this resistance is not inevitable. Studies from the University of Birmingham and McMaster University have demonstrated that older adults can regain muscle protein synthesis comparable to younger individuals when the right metabolic and nutritional triggers are restored. That means the signaling machinery still exists, it simply needs to be reactivated. In essence, anabolic resistance is not a sentence. It is a signal. It tells us that the body has shifted its priorities from growth to maintenance. Our task is to reawaken the dormant potential within the muscle by improving its sensitivity to these anabolic cues. When that happens, strength, stability, and vitality begin to return often faster than people expect. If you are finding this valuable so far, take a moment to subscribe. Also hit like button, please. Now that you understand anabolic resistance, let us look deeper at the terrain in which your muscles live. Because even if you provide your body with enough protein or the right type of exercise, muscle cannot grow inside a hostile internal environment. Think of your metabolism as the soil in which muscle grows. If the soil is dry, compacted, or filled with toxins, even the best seeds will struggle to sprout. In the same way, when insulin resistance, inflammation, or fatty liver are present, the environment for muscle repair becomes impaired. Your body, in effect, becomes more focused on survival than on growth. Let us start with insulin. Insulin is not only a blood sugar hormone, it is also a storage and signaling hormone. In a healthy state, when you eat, insulin helps transport amino acids and glucose into muscle cells, allowing them to recover and build. But when insulin levels are chronically high, often due to years of refined carbohydrate consumption, snacking, or metabolic stress, the body's cells stop responding properly. This is called insulin resistance. When that happens, the muscle becomes starved of the very nutrients it needs to maintain itself, even though there may be plenty circulating in the blood. At the same time, insulin resistance encourages fat accumulation in the liver and muscle tissue. Fat begins to infiltrate muscle fibers, a condition known as intramuscular fat infiltration. This disrupts cellular communication and reduces the efficiency of mitochondria, the little engines that power muscle contractions and repair. When the mitochondria slow down, energy production drops, and the signal for growth weakens further. Now add inflammation to that picture. Inflammation is the silent disruptor of metabolic health. It increases oxidative stress, damages cellular membranes, and interferes with protein synthesis pathways. Elevated levels of inflammatory cytokines, such as tumor necrosis factor alpha or interleukin-6, essentially jam the signals that normally promote muscle repair. The body becomes stuck in a loop of breakdown rather than renewal. The liver plays a critical role here. The liver regulates amino acid metabolism, detoxifies byproducts, and helps manage hormones like insulin and growth factors. When the liver accumulates fat, a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, it becomes less efficient at clearing toxins and managing glucose. This metabolic congestion spills over to the rest of the body, further weakening the muscle-building environment. Let me paint a simple picture. Imagine your metabolism as a small city. The liver is the power plant, insulin is the transportation network, and inflammation is like constant road construction blocking the roads. If the power plant is under strain and the roads are blocked, supplies never reach the building sites. No matter how skilled your builders are, your muscle cells, they simply cannot get the resources they need. What the research shows is that muscle health depends as much on this internal environment as it does on exercise itself. A 2023 review in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle highlighted that improving insulin sensitivity, reducing inflammation, and restoring mitochondrial efficiency are among the strongest predictors of muscle recovery in older adults. In other words, you cannot build new muscle on a broken metabolic foundation. When you address the underlying terrain, when insulin becomes more responsive, when inflammation quiets down, when the liver is clean and efficient, the entire body shifts back into an anabolic, growth-oriented state. Energy levels rise, nutrient delivery improves, and the muscle once again becomes a living, dynamic tissue that responds to stimulus. It is this internal environment that separates those who keep losing strength year after year from those who defy their age. And as we will see next, one of the simplest and most elegant ways to begin reactivating that environment starts not with a workout or a supplement plan, but with what you add to your morning coffee. Let us turn to one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern longevity science: the idea that a simple addition to your morning coffee can help restore the signaling pathways that decline with age. This may sound too simple to be true, but the underlying biology is powerful. To understand why this works, we need to revisit that molecular switch called mTOR, the mechanistic target of rapamycin. Think of mTOR as the command center for growth inside your cells. When it senses the right combination of nutrients, energy, and hormonal signals, it turns on protein synthesis and muscle repair. When it does not receive those signals, it conserves energy and prioritizes maintenance. In younger adults, mTOR is easily activated by even modest amounts of protein or physical stimulus. But after 60, this signaling pathway becomes sluggish. You may consume protein, but the build muscle message barely gets through. The key is to find ways to wake mTOR up again without overstressing the body or disrupting metabolic balance. Here is where certain compounds in your coffee can make a difference. Coffee itself contains polyphenols that improve mitochondrial efficiency and reduce oxidative stress, which indirectly supports muscle recovery. But the real muscle-supporting power comes when coffee is combined with targeted amino acids or natural growth activators. The most studied of these is Leucine, an essential branched-chain amino acid that serves as the primary trigger for mTOR activation. Research published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2023 demonstrated that when older adults consumed leucine-rich formulations, their muscle protein synthesis rates increased significantly even in the presence of mild anabolic resistance. Leucine acts as the spark that ignites the muscle-building engine. Another powerful compound is creatine. It enhances cellular energy availability by increasing phosphocreatine stores inside muscle cells. This means when you move, lift, or even walk briskly, your muscle cells have more immediate energy to rebuild and grow. Several meta-analyses have shown that older adults who combine creatine with daily coffee or tea intake experience improvements in muscle strength and cognitive performance. Caffeine itself, in moderate doses, stimulates calcium release inside muscle fibers, enhancing contractile strength and signaling readiness. When paired with amino acids like leucine, it acts as a catalyst, helping deliver those nutrients more effectively to the muscle tissue. To put this into a simple analogy, imagine your morning coffee as a vehicle. Caffeine is the engine, driving alertness and blood flow. Leucine is the passenger carrying the growth instructions. Creatine is the fuel tank extending your performance capacity. When all three ride together, they reach the destination muscle activation faster and more efficiently. Now, the purpose of this section is not to give you a recipe, but to help you understand the logic behind this synergy. When you combine metabolic stimulants like caffeine with precise nutrient signals such as leucine or creatine, you amplify the body's ability to restore youthful signaling. You are, in essence, reteaching your muscles how to respond. Recent work from the University of Illinois and the National Institute on Aging confirms that muscle tissue remains remarkably adaptable well into the 70s. Even subtle nutritional and metabolic adjustments can restore protein synthesis pathways to levels seen decades earlier. That means your body still knows how to build it, simply needs the right message delivered in the right way. So when you think about your morning coffee, think of it as more than a ritual for alertness. It can be a moment to send your body a powerful biological signal. Build, repair, regenerate. When you harness that signal consistently, the results compound over time: stronger muscles, sharper energy, and greater longevity. If you are finding this perspective helpful, consider subscribing. I share content that blends functional medicine, metabolic science, and longevity. Let us now turn to one of the most misunderstood but transformative factors in preserving muscle after 60, resistance training. It is not simply an exercise method. It is a biological signal that communicates directly with your genes. It tells your body, you are still needed, stay strong, keep building. In your younger years, almost any form of movement produces a strong muscle response. But with age, the sensitivity of those muscle fibers declines. You can walk, garden, or stay active, yet still lose strength and tone. The reason is that light daily activity does not send a sufficient growth stimulus. To rebuild what time has eroded, your muscles must experience tension. That tension, whether from your own body weight, resistance bands, or light weights, creates microscopic stress inside the muscle fibers. It is this controlled stress that triggers adaptation. Here is what is happening on a cellular level. When a muscle fiber is challenged, small tears appear in the tissue. Your body immediately begins repair through a process called muscle protein synthesis. Satellite cells, tiny stem-like cells that live around your muscle fibers, wake up and start fusing to the damaged area, making it stronger and thicker than before. This process is nature's way of saying, if you are going to demand this much from me, I must prepare for it next time. That is how muscle is built. Resistance training is also one of the strongest activators of the same mTOR pathway we discussed earlier, but it does more than build strength. It improves insulin sensitivity, enhances mitochondrial density, increases bone density, and reduces inflammation, all pillars of longevity. When you contract muscle under resistance, you are not just shaping your body, you are improving your metabolism and protecting your brain. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology found that adults in their 70s who engaged in regular resistance training not only increased muscle mass, but also reversed markers of cellular aging in their mitochondria. The scientists discovered that the genetic profile of their muscle tissue began to resemble that of people decades younger. In simple terms, resistance training does not just preserve muscle, it rejuvenates it. Let me explain this with a visual analogy. Imagine your muscle tissue as a set of fading light bulbs. Over time, they dim not because the bulbs are broken, but because the wiring has degraded. Each time you perform resistance work, you repair a bit of that wiring, allowing more energy to flow through. The light brightens again. That renewed light is vitality, strength, and resilience made visible. Resistance stimulus also has a powerful hormonal ripple effect. It increases testosterone and growth hormone levels naturally, even in older adults. It enhances insulin sensitivity, meaning that the nutrients you eat are more likely to be stored in muscle rather than fat. And it activates a group of molecules called myokines, signaling proteins released by active muscle that have anti-inflammatory and anti-aging effects throughout the entire body, including the brain. When you think about resistance training, it is helpful to shift your perspective. It is not about lifting heavy or performing complex movements. It is about signaling your biology. Every time you push, pull, or rise against resistance, you are sending a message to your DNA. Stay youthful, keep building. That message, repeated consistently, changes your physiology. The truth is that muscle does not care how old you are. It responds to stimulus, not age. The body's capacity for regeneration remains intact far longer than most people realize. Studies from McMaster University and the Mayo Clinic have shown that even individuals in their 80s can gain meaningful muscle mass and strength in as little as 12 weeks of consistent resistance activity. So, when you see resistance training through this lens not as exercise, but as a biological conversation, you begin to appreciate its true value. It is the most potent anti-aging signal you can send. And when combined with a healthy metabolic environment and nutrient signaling, it becomes the foundation of lifelong strength and vitality. If you are finding these insights valuable, I encourage you to subscribe. I share strategies to help you build strength, improve energy, and live longer. Up to this point, we have explored how anabolic resistance, metabolic health, and physical stimulus influence muscle growth. Now, let us look at one of the most overlooked variables in muscle preservation after 60: timing. Because even when you are eating the right foods and doing the right exercises, the when of your nutrition can determine whether your body stays in a state of repair or slides toward decline. Here is what is really going on inside your body. Your metabolism operates on a rhythm of biological clock synchronized by light, food, and activity. This rhythm determines when your cells are most receptive to nutrients, when your hormones are most active, and when repair is most efficient. In younger adults, that rhythm is flexible. The body can handle irregular meals or long gaps without much consequence. But as you age, the precision of this clock matters far more. When your first meal of the day is timed appropriately, it can either reinforce or disrupt your muscle-building machinery. Protein consumed during the earlier part of the day tends to be more effectively used for muscle synthesis because of the hormonal landscape: higher cortisol, higher insulin sensitivity, and greater cellular readiness. If, on the other hand, you consume most of your protein late at night, your body prioritizes digestion and storage rather than growth and repair. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2022 showed that older adults who distributed their protein intake evenly across 3 meals maintained significantly more muscle mass than those who consumed the same total protein concentrated in 1 meal. The reason lies in how muscle protein synthesis is triggered. It follows a pulse pattern. It spikes after a meal rich in amino acids and then gradually returns to baseline. If you trigger that process only once per day, you miss multiple opportunities for repair. Here is a simple analogy. Imagine your muscle as a construction site that needs 3 shipments of building materials daily to stay on schedule. If all the materials arrive at night, the workers cannot use them efficiently. They end up wasting much of it, and progress slows. But if smaller shipments arrive steadily through the day, construction proceeds smoothly. Your muscle works the same way. Consistent, evenly spaced protein signals keep the repair machinery engaged. Nutrient timing also influences how the body balances between growth and recovery. After periods of fasting, such as an overnight fast, your muscle cells become more sensitive to anabolic signals. That is why the first meal after a fast, even if modest, can be so effective at stimulating repair. The key lies not in constantly eating, but in strategically feeding at the moments when your biology is primed for growth. There is another subtle but profound element here: the circadian pattern of hormones. Insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning and early afternoon, meaning that nutrients are more likely to enter muscle rather than fat cells during these hours. Growth hormone, on the other hand, peaks at night, driving repair while you sleep. When your meal timing aligns with these natural waves, you are essentially working with your biology instead of against it. What the research shows is that nutrient timing is one of the simplest and most effective ways to enhance muscle maintenance without increasing total food intake. You are not necessarily eating more, you are simply aligning your meals with the times when your body is most ready to use them. This principle goes beyond protein. Micronutrients like magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3 fatty acids also have rhythms of absorption and activity. Their timing and synergy influence muscle recovery, mitochondrial performance, and even sleep quality, all of which feed back into muscle health. When you begin to view nutrition as rhythmic rather than random, everything changes. You stop thinking of meals as isolated events and start seeing them as signals, each one either activating or silencing your muscle-building pathways. The result is a smoother metabolic flow, improved recovery, and a noticeable restoration of strength and stability. If you have been finding these insights valuable, press subscribe. I release content to help your body's natural rhythms, optimize your metabolism, and age. We have now explored the key physiological levers that govern muscle preservation after 60. Overcoming anabolic resistance, restoring metabolic health, stimulating muscle through resistance, and aligning nutrition with the body's natural rhythm. But to complete this picture, we must step back and see how all these elements are interconnected through one central theme: the hormonal and biochemical balance that sustains longevity. Here is what is really happening inside your body. Hormones are not just chemical messengers, they are the conductors of your biological orchestra. Every note of metabolism, repair, and regeneration follows their rhythm. As you age, this hormonal symphony begins to lose its harmony, not because the instruments stop working, but because the timing and intensity of their signals change. Testosterone, for instance, is one of the most powerful anabolic hormones in both men and women. It promotes protein synthesis, supports mitochondrial energy production, and regulates fat distribution. But with advancing age, testosterone levels often decline, and even when they remain within a normal range, receptor sensitivity drops. The same is true for growth hormone and DHEA. These hormones do not disappear, their signals simply fade. If you have found these ideas insightful, I invite you to subscribe. I share new research and practical frameworks every day. So, you began this journey asking a simple but urgent question: is it possible to reverse muscle loss after 60? And the answer is yes.